Mike, a lot of gardeners have problems with weeds, insects, diseases. There are a lot of things they need to buy, but how do they know what they should buy and how dangerous it is, how much they should worry about it?
Well, Curtis, certainly an awful lot of concern about modern day pesticides. You know, you can pick up the Wall Street Journal or the Farm Journal or a garden journal of any kind, and there's usually some articles about pesticides. There's a lot of talk about organic versus inorganic type of insecticides or herbicides or whatever. And you asked a question about how do you know the difference. Certainly this is one of our most common pesticides that we use. It's Roundup. It is a herbicide. It's designed to kill plants, and it says weed and grass killer right on the front of the label, so that's how you tell. When you talk about the concentration or how toxic the material is it really highly toxic or is it less toxic? One of the real key things is to look down here for the signal word. There's usually a signal word on these things, and this is the most benign of those, I guess you would say. The first or the lowest grade of toxicity, there's a word caution.
You'll even find that on some of the organic products.
Yeah, you will. And the truth of it is, Curtis, just because something is organic doesn't mean that it's safe. You know, it means that it's organic, and that's all it means. If you look at things like nicotine sulfate, for example, or blackleaf 40, a commonly used organic material, it has a toxicity. Most of these things have some level of toxicity. So if you look here, Roundup is fairly safe material because of the signal word caution on there. That indicates it's relatively safe. Now, that doesn't mean we drank it or we're going to put it on our breakfast cereal. We need to use all the precautions. One of the first things we tell everybody is to spend some time reading the label. There's a lot of interesting things on those labels, and secondly, it is a legal document. So if you spend a little bit of time on it. If you look at the back here, one of the first things you notice is some product facts here. It tells you what weeds it kills, and it tells you what the rate's going to be and how to use the product. If we take a look a little bit farther on this one, this label is kind of glued on the back. You got to pull this little strip, but this label has an awful lot of information on it. It has how to mix it in the tank. It's got some company propaganda on the thing. It has some additional tips, how to apply, how to kill vines, that sort of thing. And one of the things you'll notice on almost any of these labels, if we go back to the first, it's got some first aid tips here. So it also right here has some emergency telephone numbers on the back, a 1-800 number that gets you in touch with the company. If we look back here, one thing that we'll find on every pesticide label, and that's right here, it says keep out of the reach of children. That is the one line that's on all pesticides all over. And the reason for that, Curtis said 85 to 90% of all accidental poisonings from pesticides, whether it be an insecticide or a herbicide or a miticide or whatever, occurs to children 5 years of age and younger. And that's just a very common sense thing. You do not want to have a small child pick these things up. Very interesting these labels are, and they're very, very important for us to read. Probably should read them 3 times if you're going to buy a pesticide. When you walk in the store, when you sit down in the store, you want to make sure before you buy it, you want to read it, see what you're buying. This particular one happens to be a little different concentration than some of the others, so you can buy this at a 2% concentration or 18% concentration or 50% concentration and so forth. You want to make sure you know what you're buying. Secondly, just before you use a product, you want to spend some time reading that label. You want to know what you're killing. When you go out here, you identify a pest, or if you're looking at weeds, you know what the weed is. You want to know what you're applying this particular herbicide to, so you want to identify the pest. You want to read that label and see what the rate of application is. You want to make all those concerns about wildlife and water and so forth. And then thirdly, before you store the product. Again, as I said, a lot of storage information on here, and these products, if you set them on the shelf, they can deteriorate and so forth.
You know, if someone has difficulty understanding the label, they can call their county extension agent for more information about how to read each label.
You certainly can, and these are commonly used products. I think most of them can be used safely if they're used according to the label. Spend some time with that label and use common sense if there is such a thing. We have sense in common, but it is something that you want to do. Those 2 things are key.
Thank you, Mike.
You bet.